session, the sea shipment is one of the largest mode of international shipment around the world. So now let us look at what is this multimodal. Before that, we have already touched upon the intermodal transportation, which is defined as the movement of cargo from one place to the other, that is the origin to destination, using not one but different modes of transport. Well, if a customer is in a landlocked country and he calls up his supplier in another country and he says, I want the goods in my country, then there is a possibility that the supplier has to use intermodal transportation. That means he used to use a sea route for making the ship leave from the port to the next port where the country belongs to whichever region. And from there, the goods has to be unloaded into a land route and then taken by crossing border to the country of destination. Each mode here is operated by a different carrier and requires an independent contract. Well, this point is a very important point because this is where it differs with the multimodal transport. One of the main advantages is the absence of goods moving from one container to another. So, this is another point in intermodal transportation where there is no need for moving the goods from one container to another container. That means once the goods are taken in a container from one location to the other, the same container can be loaded on a truck and sent. So there is no need for moving the goods. The container is moved here. Intermodal transportation combines different methods of transport to give the fastest shipping time possible. Of course, in whichever country these facilities are available, like facilities in India, containers are carried by rail route and land route also. It leads to efficiency and reduced cost, improved security, faster delivery because the container seal is not opened, and faster delivery. The goods need not be removed from one point of container to some other different kind of packaging. The dominant mode of intermodal are truck, rail, barges, that is rivers and canals wherever it is available, and sea. So, pipe doesn't come here. That's all is the point. And air is seldom used. So, in intermodal transportation, which is also true for multimodal, trucks that carry containers, rails carry containers, and barges, there's rivers and canals, and sea. So, these are the different modes of intermodal transportation. The weaker modes are pipe and air. Now, on the same lines, let us see what is a multimodal transportation. It is defined in the same way as intermodal transportation. The movement of goods from origin to destination, of course with several modes of transport, where one carrier takes every responsibility or the sole responsibility of delivering the goods under a single contract. Now, the multimodal combines the advantages of every mode in an efficient and effective manner, and an MTO independently finds and negotiates with all parties involved in transportation of the goods. So we call MTO as one of the mode of transportation. He is actually an operator who basically negotiates with all the parties involved under a single contract, sends the goods to the destination. The customer enters into a single agreement. The customer need not enter a separate contract with each and different modes of transport, which is quite time consuming, and allows him to minimize the cost and also time. The logistics system has ICDs and CFSs as hubs in the logistic chain. These are known as also dry ports. So, the point of entry of a multimodal transport operator is inland container depot or container freight stations. So how the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India defines ICDs and CFS? We have verbatim taken this definition in their nomenclature. Common user facility with a public authority, with fixed installation and offering services of handling and storage of export and import laden and empty containers carried under customs control. Of course, custom control is an important underlying statement here. And with customs and other agencies competent to clear goods for any use, home use, its personal effects, warehousing, temporary admissions, re-exports, temporary storage, onward transit, outright exports, all are put together. ICDs and CFSs are known as dry ports. So with this definition, we will understand what are the difference between ICDs and CFSs. As per this slide, we now understand that it is under the government operation. It is as regulatory as the custom stations, that is land, route, or foreign post office, where custom officers are stationed. So these are equipped with superior facilities like terminal handling equipments, and they provide various facilities to the business firms, like they can do temporary storage before they remove the goods for some other activity. It is a place for both empty container storage as well as laden container, that is container that is having goods inside it, all under custom control and their inspection for various purposes. Having understood this, let us go to understand the difference between ICDs and CFSs. There's a subtle difference. ICDs, that is inland, by the very word it suggests, container depots are connected by rail. That is very, very important to the respective gateway port, unlike a CFC. Now, that's a major point of difference. For that reason, ICDs are interiors of a country. Maybe it is further away from the port and outside the towns where ports are actually located. Well, because of the heavy vehicle transportation or the rail transportation which happens, it cannot be very close to the crowded areas like urban areas or cities. So they are outside the towns where ports are located. So it should facilitate both the transportation of the urban commuters as well as the cargo. Container freight stations, on the other hand, are located in the close proximity of the port, maybe a seaport, and they do not have rail connectivity. So they are also known as off-dock container yards. That means off the dock, the seaport container yards. It is situated outside of the port, but not so interior as that of an inland container depot. Please understand, inland container depot are always connected by rail. CFCs do not have this connectivity, but they are very close to the sea. CFCs are actually playing a crucial role in decongesting the ports per se, because laden container and empty containers occupy a lot of space. They require cranes to be lifted and stacked one above the other. It is more time consuming. So they decongest because CFCs are off-dock container yards, where more space is made available in the ports for new ships to enter and offload the material by carrying out all the customs and cargo activities inside that premises. So it is well guarded and within the inspection of within the range and control of the customs. The CFCs deal with normally certain kinds of goods which are known as bulk break cargo. A bulk break cargo breaks the bulk in a form of drums, pallets, they are bundled or strapped. Whereas bulk cargo, this is the opposite. It doesn't, normally CFCs don't handle it, come in iron ore, coal, which are not packed, which are just dumped or filled in the vessel. So let's see what are the functions of the ICDs and CFSs. In an ICD or a CFS, as I said, which is coming within the customs control, it handles all the formalities, paperwork, documentations, which needs to be looked into by the customs. That is required for import or export of the goods. So ICDs are used for both import and export. They take receipt of dispatch, delivery of the cargo. That means ICDs and CSS take receipts of the goods that comes in the country, and also they look into the dispatch or the delivery of the cargo. They provide a temporary storage facility for cargo or even empty containers before it gets filled again and loaded on the ship to be sent again. This is a very crucial area because this is what it helps in decongesting the ports. Maintenance and repairs of container units can also be carried out again because this is off-dock yard facility available. So any problems with the container units, any leakage, any part of it is broken or damaged, where opening of the door, front door, closing it becomes an issue, then maintenance repairs can be carried out here, because these are very, very heavy bodies and very thick metals that needs a very different kind of treatment for repairs. These are not the normal thin metals that we use in a day-to-day life. Stuffing and stripping of containers can be done. Transit operations by rail, road to and fro from servicing the ports. That is the key role of ICDs and CFCs, because by rail or by road, containers are directly removed from one place to the other without the need of removing the goods. That's the beauty of multimodal transportation. Now, we look at the next and the final mode of transportation in international logistics, that is sea shipment. Well, the point of entry is the seaport. This is quite an elaborate area. As per the Ministry of Shipping, Government of India, 95% of India's trading volume, that is international trade, and 70% by value, of course, because the value will be less compared to air. So it is 70% is done through maritime transport. So you can understand the importance of sea shipment. 95% of the entire business of export and import happens through sea shipment. The major ports of entry in India are listed down. Of course, this is not in an ascending or a descending order. It's just randomly taken. So we have a Nhava Sheva port, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, JNPT, Chennai Port in Tamil Nadu, Haldia in Kolkata, Mangalore, there is New Mangalore Port, Paradip, Tuticorin and Visakhapatnam, followed by many other ports. Ports are normally handled both by central government as well as the state government. Ocean shipping is one of the major areas that we need to look into here. Water transportation is one of the key mode of freight movement and the most economical. It's eco-friendly and it is most suitable for a very large and bulk quantities of various types of goods. In this, we have three types of vessels operating in ocean shipping, and the distinguishing part is the service they offer. One is known as a liner service, second is the bulk service, and third is a tramp service. Well, our focus of study today will be purely on liner service, which offers regularly scheduled passage on established routes. A bulk service is nothing but that provides contractual services. Well, as the case arises, then we need to individually go and contact the service provider for carrying the goods. It is for individual voyages or for prolonged periods of time, when it goes for a number of days, months rather, from one place to the other. Tramp is available for irregular routes and is scheduled only on demand and not on any fixed schedule. So, let us look at what constitutes the liner service. Let's define liner service first. A liner service is a service that operates on a schedule with a fixed port rotation, fixed frequency of week, fortnightly or monthly, and with the published dates of departure and arrival in each of the port's location. So, unlike bulk and tramp services, liner services operates on a fixed route and a schedule, and we call it port rotation. Why? Because of the following reasons. These services transports goods from one destination to other using large ocean ships, very huge, from one end to the other, carrying huge volumes of goods in a single voyage. But they move in a predetermined route. Liner services pass through only designated port, but they may add or they may omit some ports based on requirements of loading. However, it is all designated ports through which they pass. So, a liner service typically call on various loading ports. It comes and docks at the port where the goods are ready in a container that need to be loaded in the ship, and after the sailor looks into the loaded goods, issues the bill of lading, and he takes on the further journey. Basically, after calling on the loading ports, he then returns over the same route to the starting point. Or he passes by servicing very limited number of ports. Or some liner services navigate on a pendulum route. So we have all seen how a clock pendulum goes from one end to the other and back to the same end using the same route. So they cover a range, maybe a sequence of ports in East Asia, South Asia and Europe. They form a pendulum and they return to the original destination. So this is what is about liner services. Now we'll look at different cargo ships. The first type of cargo ship we look at is container ship. Second, we call it as bulk carriers. There's a bifurcation in bulk carrier. There's a dry bulk and a wet bulk. We'll discuss about that. Then there's a break bulk, followed by final one, which is very sparingly used because of certain geographical reasons, locations of the countries or the need of the transportation, is known as ro-ro vessels. So first and foremost, we'll look at the mother of all cargo ships, that is container ships. Well, container ships are very large, and containers that is loaded in the container ship is nothing but a storage unit. Inside the container, the materials are stacked. Well, the dimensions of those materials are also standard in the sense the material may be, the goods may be, or the products inside may be of different dimension, but they are all given a standard dimension by maybe packing in a cardboard carton. The carton will have standard dimensions, and over each carton another carton is loaded and they are stacked. Unitized and containerized words are used interchangeably in container cells, and the process of transporting the goods by container is known as containerization. So these initial words are being used very commonly and often in any literature, magazines, websites, etc. So one needs to know. Containers are available in various volumes and accommodate different cargo types. Container shipping becomes very convenient and fast because at the terminal there are cranes that lifts the containers from the ship onto the dock and vice versa. And this can be done at a very fast speed. That means what about ports who don't have crane facility? Yes, there is a problem there. Container ship or container vessels cannot go and dock in these ports. That means whenever container ships look at the scheduled port of entry, they must look at the facilities available in the port also. That means any country's port should be able to attract container vessels by providing such infrastructure in the port. That's where government comes into picture, or private entities who manage or control much of the ports need to look into. The dimensions of the containers are standard, which is 20 feet and 40 feet. Some are also known as refrigerated shipment. As we have discussed before about perishable goods, transportation of perishable goods requires refrigerated containers. Container ships hold vast volumes of cargo. Now, in this slide that is in front of you, you may have to look into the picture here. This is just indicative of the size of a container. On the left hand side, the first column, the size of a container is expressed in feet or inches. This is the standard jargon used. We normally call it 20 feet. 20 feet is a normal world lingo that is used across the world whenever in export trade you need to book a vessel. Other size is a 40 feet standard. Well, with 40 we need to use the word standard because 40 comes in two types. One is 40 feet standard, other is 40 high cube standard. So here below in feet and inches we are given the dimensions. Well, the door opening, the internal dimension and the total volume is very important. Total volume, that is the last column here, is what is also known as capacity, which is very important. Because in a container of, let's say, roughly 1,170 cubic feet, one company will pack the goods in carton and the total space all cartons will occupy may be just 500 cubic feet. What about the remaining 670 cubic feet? Well, such a shipment for that particular business which packed and wants to ship only 500 cubic feet, we call it a less than a container load. But another company wants to ship the goods and have packed the goods with almost 1,160 cubic feet space that is occupied by the cartons. We call such shipment as full container load. Now, the interesting part here is if a company ships a full container load, that is 20 feet container, they get a very better discounted price per cubic feet than compared to a less than a container load in terms of per cubic feet. So this is the interesting part when you purchase space inside the container. Similarly, a 40 feet standard will occupy 2,390 cubic feet space is available, whereas in a high cube 2,700 cubic feet of space is available. However, along with the capacity, companies which is inserting those goods need to look at the opening dimensions of the container and the internal dimensions also, wherever it is required. Now, normally these are palletized, and below the picture of the container dimensions, I have also provided a small picture of a wooden pallet. This is how a typical pallet looks like, and it is around 8 inches wide or 40 inches deep. So typically these pallets are available, which is purchased by the company, so that they stack the carton on this pallet. Now what happens is, when the truck carrying the container reaches the factory warehouse, it is easy to use a pneumatic machine to lift the cartons through the pallet below by inserting the two rods inside the pallet and lifting the cartons, very heavy cartons, and inserting those cartons inside the container. This saves huge amounts of time and a very difficult manual labor, and also damage to the goods, because once manual labor is involved, the laborers, who are multiple laborers involved to load a single carton, may, during the process of loading the goods, may damage the packaging. So when we use the word palletized, the pallets is what is referred to here in the picture. Normally, the capacity of a container ship is expressed in what we call as TEU. TEU, which is written in the slide above, stands for 20 feet equivalent unit. That means it's a measure of a ship's cargo carrying capacity. Or the dimensions of one TEU is 20 feet long, 8 feet tall. So when I say 20 feet long, 8 feet tall, I am referring to a typical 20 feet container. So almost 9 to 11 pallets are able to fit in a single TEU. With this, we should know that some container ships are so large that 20,000 to 24,000 TEUs carrying capacity. So that kind of voluminous, huge quantity of goods a single container ship is able to carry. That is what makes sea shipment one of the most preferred shipment across the world. So there are different benefits. It facilitates door-to-door delivery, door of one company to door of the other company. Yes, of course, no container comes and stands in front of a residential home. Okay. Next is, it reduces the cost of packaging, as the container acts as a strong protective cover, and pallets help to lift and load and unload the container. So manual labor or manual intervention is very limited, and that is also helps the company to not spend too much money on sturdy packages. So this is what reduces the cost of packaging. It reduces the documentation work, because goods are packed in a manner such a way that it is all written in the packing list and the container gets sealed. Once the container is sealed by the customs, the seal is broken only by customs at the port of import. It prevents pilferage and theft, because ships pass through high seas. In the olden days, there were issues of pirates, but however, maritime theft has largely been controlled and reduced by the customs. However, any pilferage and theft that may happen is reduced in containers. Unlike has to happen, the seal of the container has to be broken. And finally, the last one is, it reduces the susceptibility to cargo damage. Of course, the protective covering of the container is thick and hard. The goods, even with minimal packaging, can sail long journeys without further damage or any damage to the products. Now let us look at the next vessel available for sea shipment, which is known as bulk cargo. Well, based on the type of goods that is shipped, certain type of goods cannot be packed in a carton or loaded in a container and then the container lifted by the crane and stacked one above the other on the container ship. Well, the cost is very prohibitive, it's not feasible, and there are other issues related to it. For those kind of products, bulk cargo is used. So, to understand what is bulk cargo, it's a shipping term used for items that are shipped loose and they are not packed, as opposed to containers or packages. Bulk cargoes are also known as bulk carriers. That means a ship carrying a container cannot carry these products. Products such as iron ore, coal, wheat, grain, like these kind of products. This is known as bulk shipping. Bulk cargo are divided into two categories. It's written three there. I'm sorry. It's two categories. One is dry bulk, other is wet bulk. Now let's understand what is dry bulk. A dry bulk is a loose, not packed, solid material, and it is in uniform composition, like a coal, grain, wheat, rice. This is in uniform composition. These are solid material, and these are available in loose forms. Inside the cargo, it has to be maintained dry. That's why the name comes dry bulk. And if there are any moisture content that finds its way inside the cargo, it will spoil the entire cargo. You can't use the coal, sugar will be spoiled, wheat cannot be used. So maintaining the moisture levels is very important. So goods such as sugar, cocoa, coffee, fertilizers, cements are shipped through dry bulk. Now let's see what is wet bulk. Wet bulk cargo are not packaged. Once again, that means they are not put in a box, they are not put in a bag or any other kind of packaging. But they are transported loosely again through a cargo, and this wet bulk cargo, other word, it's known as tankers. So sometimes drums, barrels made from steel, plastic or fiber can be used to carry certain chemicals. Is also used. However, what happens if you want to transport liquefied gas, what we call as LPG, liquefied petroleum gas? The gaseous form needs to be converted into the liquid form in order for them to be transported from one place to the other. Or crude oil. Crude oil is the key raw material for many derivatives of what we call as hydrocarbons. It can be petrol, the gasoline, diesel, kerosene, jet fuel, others, chemicals, and cooking oil, juices, and something that is non-consumable again like gasoline are all using wet bulk cargo for shipping the goods. The next part of the cargo vessel we call as break bulk. As the name suggests, unlike wet bulk and dry bulk, you're breaking the bulk. That means we cannot simply send the goods loosely like sugar or pour it like a crude petroleum inside the cargo vessel. Then what is the role of break bulk? Let's say from one end of a country, maybe in the Eastern Europe, a ship needs to sail carrying a part of a space shuttle or launch vehicles components. These are very, very massive. Or a big company like Airbus wants certain components of manufacturing an aircraft from some other country, and that other country found that sea shipment is the most viable form of shipment because of the volume that it carries and also the cost, and also at the given time. In such cases, the big machine, maybe like a windmill or a space shuttle vehicle or a massive aircraft wing, a component, needs a carrier which can carry big shape, big sizes, which is not in a unidimensional form. There's where the bulk break cargoes come into picture. That means bulk break shipping includes items that aren't put into large containers. Definitely they can't put into containers with a 20 feet, 40 feet or 40 feet high cube. One wing of an aircraft cannot be fit into one container of 40 feet. So it is ridiculous. But they are neither loose materials. Bulk break provides ability to ship oversized goods without breaking them down into smaller shipments. Of course, a wing is a part of an aircraft, but you can't break the wing further in order to bring it to much smaller size so that it's shippable by a container or putting it in a carton and packing it or strapping it. That cannot be done. Bulk break are capable of docking at any port, as these vessels do not need modern equipment at the port like container ships. For a container ship, cranes are a must. Otherwise, it's not possible to lift the container and place it at some other place. Whereas, for a bulk break, depending on the kind of the goods, these handling equipments are not, or what we call the modern equipments in handling is not required. That means there are more number of ports available for these large containers carrying different size of materials like an aircraft wing or a part of a space shuttle, rocket, okay, and can go to relatively less congested ports. Bulk break relies on more manpower. That's where the cost increases, because the loading and unloading has to be done manually here. As I said, no modern equipment can be available in the port. Normally, break bulk cargoes reach such port so that the loading and unloading is free from any problems or obstructions from other shipments that come at the same time. So, because of the intervention of human labor in loading and unloading, there are issues of spoilage or certain damages happens to goods. Large machines for heavy industries of infrastructure that, well, cannot be dismantled, and if it is dismantled, to remantle it or to put it together, it's very expensive. So a cost benefit analysis says that not to dismantle these machines and rather ship it as a whole, and then high cost that is associated with again putting these goods back is taken care here by sending it in a break bulk cargo. It comes in the form of unitized or non-unitized. Unitized are again drums, pallets or bags. In certain very rare cases, non-unitized are steel, long rods, sheets, or certain vehicles, certain heavy equipment vehicles. Lastly, we look into what is known as a RORO or roll-on, roll-off cargo. A roll-on, roll-off cargo, a small picture of it is given in the reading material for you in the Word document that is being converted into a PDF. Ships are designed to ferry wheeled cargo such as cars, trucks, semi-trailer, etc. So, well, a truck has to pass through a river, and passing through that river, it has to go through long journey because the nearest bridge available is quite a distance far. Whereas a ship is available very close to the factory where it can enter this cargo vessel and being taken at the other spot, and the driver can drive through it very quickly. Normally, in areas where rivers are abundantly flowing or tributaries are there, and where commuters need to go from one place to the other, maybe for shopping or maybe for their office or even for school, then they travel by car, and at the port they enter this vessel, they drive inside the vessel, and when it goes to the other side of the river, they come out sitting in their car. So this is what we call as vehicles can drive on and off the ship on their own wheels through a vehicle platform. So since cars and lorries can drive straight onto the ship at one port and then dry off at the other port within few minutes, it saves a lot of time for the shipper. And that's where ro-ro vessels come into. Now, having concluded the different types of cargo vessels available for sea shipment, we will now discuss a storage facility which is a very important part of international logistics after transportation, that is cold storage infrastructure. Well, warehouses play a major role in the supply chain activities. They have various benefits and they support the cost reduction of the products that is ultimately delivered to the customer. But however, in certain cases of imports or exports, there are goods that needs not just to be stored at one place but also preserved. And this part of the consignment or the cargo quantity is increasing in number, in tonnage. That is the perishable items. There are various perishable items which, besides food and other dairy products, need to be preserved. There are certain chemicals, certain medicines that need to be maintained in a controlled temperature. We have what is known as transportation facility, which is also having controlled temperature facility. And in addition, there is a storage facility also required. And this storage facility, we call it as cold storage. Now, to encompass the entire logistics activity at a lower temperature, we call all the activities into one single domain known as cold chain infrastructure. So, cold chain infrastructure that is in front of you, the slide, is a logistics system where it is temperature controlled supply chain, cold storage and distribution. So here both storage and distribution are equally important. That is what encompasses what is known as an infrastructure. It is not just warehouse, it is not just transportation. Well, goods like perishable and including some non-perishable essentials, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, like vaccines, are preserved very fresh so that the shelf life of the product increases, the usability of it remains same at the time when it was manufactured, and it enables easy storage and transportation. So very important part is a cold chain infrastructure is a temperature controlled storage and temperature controlled transportation. So we need to know now with an introduction that we just define, let us have some more information about what is a cold storage infrastructure. Obviously, it's temperature controlled. It is about storage and delivering both perishable and non-perishable essentials. It has to maintain accurate temperature and humidity throughout the transportation, because normally for food products, dairy products, the fish, meat, poultry products, lower temperature stops or at least lowers the rate of change in the fruit quality, and thereby it retains the nutritional value, fruits very much. Cold chain infrastructure consists of certain activities. Well, it is known as grading, sorting, packing, storage, processing and transportation. We will revisit this, the final point, towards the end. Now, a model of cold chain infrastructure is provided by researchers Sapra and Joshi, and this model gives you a complete picture of what all the infrastructure constitutes. This is very important because there is a lot of government initiatives to develop the infrastructure in India. This point will also be spoken shortly. At this moment, let us look at the model here, which from the left hand side, the arrows that is leading to the right hand side says the first is supply procurement, part of infrastructure, then there is transport of the procured material, then there is storage of procured material, and again there is transport to either the end customer directly or retail or certain terminal markets, seaports, airports for exports and imports, or a factory for if it's an intermediary product. That means the product will be taken and value added and converted into certain finished products. So the list that is given here for end customer, retail, terminal, factory, seaports and airports, this considers both for domestic as well as international markets. So cold chain infrastructure is being presented to all of you in perspectives of both domestic as well as international logistics. Now, the first point is supply procurement. Supply procurement requires certain infrastructure facility, which is pre-cooling system for the rural markets, and sometimes it is also required for certain manufacturers. Well, what are these pre-cooling systems? We'll discuss very shortly towards the end. Next is the transportation. In transportation, you require refrigerated trucks for land. Again, refrigerated railway wagons for land transport. Refrigerated cargo containers for sea shipments. Sea shipments is very important because it is not just food items, dairy items, even yarn, like certain sensitive yarns like elastomers. When the ship sails through the high seas, maybe the Atlantic Ocean or the Indian Ocean, the temperatures are so high, the containers heat up, and certain yarns which are like elastic, they lose their elasticity because of such high temperatures inside the container. So if the product that is being made by using such yarns are very high-end garments, then normally buyers prefer the goods to be shipped with refrigerated containers. So always let's not focus only on fruits, vegetables, which are the edibles, as perishables. There are other products also which are very sensitive to temperature, like I already informed, pharmaceutical drugs and vaccines that require refrigerated cargo containers if it has been imported from some place. There are certain other materials which require lot of care, and during long journeys it can be spoiled if adequate temperature is not maintained. After transportation, next comes is again storage. In storage, well, certain activities happen. So here what we require from the part of cold supply chain infrastructure is cold storage warehouses. And finally, all the activities that is done in the warehouse is again has to be transported using refrigerated trucks, rail and refrigerated cargo containers that reaches the end customers. The end customers list can be encompasses all the different businesses. So now let us look at the cold chain infrastructure in India. In India, we can easily look into the figures and say that it is just emerging. So anything that emerges, as I described in the previous session, it is always fragmented. And yes, very much it's unorganized. It is one individual who has the adequate funds available with him or her. They open up certain facilities. Maybe proper studies don't get done, and sometimes it is used. Sometimes these facilities are charged a very different price, and it is largely an unorganized market. Unless big players come in and they own a chain of warehouses and after doing proper study decide about the location of the warehouses, then optimum usage of this cold storage and the objectives of cold storage is not going to be achieved. So it is currently in a fragmented and unorganized state. Most of the facilities are available nearer to the market. This is a big cause of the problem. When we say market, it is consumption. Whereas cold storage facility is required, very important, when it is at the production site, which is we call as the local market or nearer to the farm's fresh produce. There these facilities are not yet built. These facilities are capable of storing single commodities. In India, most of the cold storage are owned because of certain reason where pricing is very important. See, food is always a very, very competitive sector, especially from the agricultural produce till it reaches the customer market for purchasing. Pricing is very competitive here. In such cases, let's say a fast food outlet, an international brand in India, may want to maintain potatoes very fresh, that is grown in certain specified regions of this country. And these potatoes might have to travel long journeys. So as soon as they are harvested, they need to be stored in a cold storage. So cold storage got built for such clients only, and these can accommodate only one or maximum two commodities. A cold storage facility should be multi-purpose. So for that reason, government has taken all these issues into consideration, and they have already earmarked the certain facilities towards developing and expanding the facilities in India. It comes under the Ministry of Food Processing and Industry because food is a major cause of concern, and the scheme is known as Cold Chain Value Addition and Preservation Infrastructure Scheme. So what does this scheme talk about? This scheme wants entrepreneurs to build integrated cold chain and preservation infrastructure facilities. That is without any break from the farm gate to the consumer. So there are multi-points, and this multi-points is what we discussed in the previous slide, that is the model of cold chain or cold supply chain infrastructure. Both state governments and central governments have provided subsidy programs to develop multi-purpose cold chain facilities, and there is financial assistance on capex, capital expenditure, or certain interest rate support for infrastructure, because normally it is required for the working capital to set up certain facilities pertaining to cold chain. Now, if we look at the cold chain infrastructure from the model that we just studied, this procurement part of the model, we spoke about pre-cooling infrastructure. So government is funding certain infrastructure under cold storage schemes, and one of them is pre-cooling units. A pre-cooling unit is nothing but a unit that removes heat, and because of high temperature it becomes a problem to store the fruits and vegetables fresh and with the same nutritional value. That means by the time it is harvested and comes to the consumer market, it would have lost all the nutrition value because of heat. And because of lack of sales of such spoiled products, there are many businesses, the middlemen don't want to bring those produce to distant markets. So there are people, the customers never get such products. We don't get all the fruits in all the states in this country at all the time. Again, next kind of infrastructure facility that is under the government radar, government facility or government incentive is waxing unit. It's a process that reduces the evaporation loss of water from fruits, vegetables, and increases the storage life of the product. Then there's a controlled atmosphere and modified atmosphere storage. This basically extends the shelf life again of foods, eliminates pests also in food products. There is individually quick frozen technique, again a government subsidized program for preserving foods by preventing ice crystals formation on vegetables, because this damages the nutrition value of the goods. Then there is another one known as the blast freeze machine that brings down the temperature of foodstuffs and freezes them quickly, and that prevents the damage of the goods. And lastly, we look at the transportation facility. The transportation facility consists of what is known as reefer, refrigerated transportation. We call it reefer. It's known as refrigerated container transportation. It's a truck used to transport temperature sensitive goods. So for any temperature sensitive goods, the buyer in an international market would always inform the supplier beforehand that he wants the shipment in a container, but this should be a reefer. Reefer or refrigerated containers are very expensive compared to a normal 20 feet container. So this is what all constitutes a cold storage infrastructure under government initiatives. So given this, let us look at the current scenario of cold storage facilities in our country. It is a data from Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare of 2020. That means it is not very latest. However, it is not too old data also. So we can always refer to this data. The data is provided in metric ton capacity. Please keep in mind, we don't have multi-commodity storage facility. Most of them are single commodity. However, in the ranking, we see that the number of units is maximum in Uttar Pradesh, that comes to roughly 2,400 units with a very massive capacity, followed by West Bengal, Gujarat, Punjab, which is the agricultural belt of our India, the wheat growing belt, and followed by other states. And one of the top 10, there are further states also, but 200, Karnataka has 223 units with a storage facility of not more than 676,000 tons, metric tons capacity. So these are all the cold storage facilities available in the country.
Come on, we'll go to the slide. Customer facilitation, tracking outbound shipment. The retail supply chain management involves the process of managing the movement of goods from the manufacturers to the retailer and ultimately to the consumer. Logistics management, on the other hand, is the process of planning, implementing and controlling the movement of goods and the storage of goods and services related to information from the point of origin to the point of consumption. The consumption points facilitates the tracking of outbound shipments. One of the most critical aspects of retail supply chain logistics is customer facilitation, which is the process of ensuring that customers receive their orders in a timely and efficient manner. Tracking outbound shipments is an essential part of customer facilitation. I was discussing in the earlier video how we have to track through various methods, and because it enables customer to monitor the progress of their orders, and it also enables retailers to produce better customer services. What are all the methods of tracking outbound shipments? So number one is the carrier tracking. This involves using the carrier's website or mobile app to track the progress of the shipment. And then customers can enter their tracking number and the carrier will provide updates on the location and status of the shipment. Retailing tracking. Some retailers have their tracking systems that customers can use to track their orders. These tracking systems often provide more detailed information than the carrier tracking. So, email and SMS notifications. Many retailers nowadays, online e-tailers, use the method of emailing and the SMS informations. And many retailers and carriers send these type of mails and messages to their customers to update them on the status of their shipments. Customers can receive notification when the shipment is out of delivery and when it is delivered. Customer service. Customers can contact the retailer's customer service team to obtain the information on their shipments. The customer service team can provide updates on the shipment status, a location where it reached, and the estimated delivery time also. What are all the advantages? Improved customer satisfaction is the major advantage. Customers can track their shipments and get real-time updates on the expected delivery date and time. This improves customer satisfaction and builds customer loyalty. Increased efficiency is the second advantage. By providing customers with a real-time tracking system, the process of shipping goods becomes more efficient. And this is because customers can be informed about any delays or issues that may arise during the shipment process. Reduced customer complaints is the third advantage. A real-time tracking system can help to reduce the customer complaints, as the customers can be informed well in advance about the status of the shipments and the delivery, so that they may be available on the spot to collect their materials and inspect it immediately. And disadvantages talks about high cost. Implementing a real-time tracking system can be an expensive one, and this is because it requires the installation of technology infrastructure such as GPS, barcode scanners, RFIDs, and software systems. Data privacy and security concerns. Customers may be concerned about the security of their personal and shipping data when using a real-time tracking system. Therefore, companies need to ensure that the customer's data, privacy, and the security policies are up to date and implemented properly. The last disadvantage is dependence on the technology. If technology fails, everything fails. So, real-time tracking systems rely heavily on app management, especially online trades, on technology, and any technical issues may lead to delays and other logistical problems. The challenges: integration with the existing system. Real-time tracking systems need to be integrated with existing logistics and supply chain management systems, which can be challenging. And global logistics implementations. The real time of implementing this logistics integrating tracking system can be a challenge in the global logistics environment, as different countries have different laws, rules, regulations governing the tracking of the products. And the opportunities. It is a competitive advantage. A real-time tracking system can give companies a competitive advantage over their competitors, as it can improve customer satisfaction and efficiency, which you can provide it better than your competitor. Automatically your sales will be increased and your reputation in the market will also be increased. And data analytics. Real-time tracking systems can provide valuable data on consumer behavior, delivery times, delivery patterns, and other matrices that can be used to improve business operations. See, on the whole, when you are talking about the tracking, suppose if you are ordering a product, beyond all these advantages, people will be so happy and delighted to receive the product by going into the app, finding out their products, whether it is shipped or whether it is transit, it is out of godown or out of warehouse, it is in particular place, it is in Chennai or it reached Mumbai, it reached the courtyard. When after seeing this message, they will be very much enthusiastic to get the delivery. So then and there, checking the status of the delivery, online tracking of the products itself is a customer delight. Some customers order gift items or gift materials for a birthday party or for some other occasions. So in those situations, this tracking is giving a pleasant experience and a thrilling experience for the customer. They will be often opening their applications and they will be checking where it is. Sometimes the numbers they may forget it, they may store those numbers, the slips, order informations as a safety purpose also. Because rarely they will get an opportunity to track and experience these type of thrilling informations. Sometimes people, those who are getting gift without knowing, they will be given a track and they will be often getting the message that something is traveling for you from teddy bear company or something is waiting. And even tracking of that delivery man on the particular day, nobody will be working and they will be just idly sitting and looking into their phones when this man will be calling and how I can get my materials delivered. Sometimes they will put leave for the office and they will wait for the parcel. These type of peculiar behaviors of the customers are experienced in the retail online trackings. And very big companies also give promises to the order making companies that I will receive the material, it is in this particular track. So I can appoint new persons or I can give them overtime to make my production faster. And this will help the companies to facilitate their production operations. So on the whole, in the conclusion, customer facilitation of tracking outbound shipments in retail supply chain and logistics management is giving an exciting experience in the retailing industry, ensuring that the customers receive their orders in a timely and efficient manner in their own locations. And there are several methods of tracking outbound shipments, including the carrier tracking, the app tracking, retailer tracking, email trackings, SMS trackings, etc. And the customer service will be ensured based on the tracking system. And retailers should provide multiple access to timely and accurate information on their shipments that will encourage their service to the customers. Thank you very much for watching this. Even though the tracking is giving a beautiful experience for the customers, the problems which is available in this particular tracking is very vast. And a lot of challenges are also there in that. We have to learn further in the videos about this, and also the PDF material which I am providing you will ensure the excess readings and excess materials about these type of ideas. Thank you very much. We'll meet you in the next week.